to get in the flesh on Combot. We're going to go all the way.
看这，这次还能不会吗？好像被 KO 了。
Oh my God! That's gonna hurt. Grab the milk, Kenny.
Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Hello everybody and welcome to yet another TCC live event rundown episode. It's been a little bit and this one's going to be a little bit more brisk than our recent ones, but we're glad to have you here as always, bringing you everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the flyweight class, from BattleBots to the live circuit. It's time to finally talk about Extreme Robots yet again and play a little bit of catch up as we break down some of the big developments which have occurred during their first visit of the year to Portsmouth for 3 events. We were originally going to be hoping to cover this event back in May, but of course they have had an NDA for these recent events because they are trying to make a video series for them, whether it be on YouTube or elsewhere. We don't know yet, but we do know that they're trying to make a video series. They have taken a bunch of footage, and they are working on it. The Combot Collective actually contacted Extreme Robots recently asking about the status of that footage, and they said that they are still working on it. There have been some delays with some people getting sick. You know, it is still COVID season and everything, so you got to be careful, everybody. But they are still working on it, and it should be out fairly soon. So we'll have to see what happens. You know, the time will come when the time will come. But I know I'm ready for it. I'm excited to talk about Extreme Robots with all y'all some more. But let's talk about what we do know. As in our last Extreme Robots video, when they announced the teams, I did address that I had some concerns about the imbalance of some of these teams. Team Quake especially. And fortunately, it looks like Extreme Robots answered that quickly when some robots were added to some of the teams for day one. For the favorites, Team Inferno, their ranks would absorb an Extreme Robots regular and a perky underdog in the vertical spinner Nasher. And for Team Quake, the group that really needed it most, these guys would absorb the Irish veteran Dozer, a robot which is really laid under the radar the past couple of years, and a really big get in Ripper, the face of Extreme Robots and one of the sport's oldest heavyweights. I was discussing in our last Extreme Robots video also what they were going to do with Ripper. I was wondering if they were going to make a new team for Ripper or if they were going to do something different with them. But it looks like John Finley will be joining Will Thomas's ranks, and now Team Quake is quite a stacked team. And I would say Ripper has represented Team Quake very well so far, given the results of that inaugural Extreme Robots Championship tournament. That's right, the beautiful brand new Extreme Robots Championship title was finally put on the line in a full robot tournament. This is the first challenge belt competition since Robot Wars 2002 when they had the challenge belt competition at Extreme 2. Like I said, this was a 4 robot competition with 2 flippers, 1 lifter, and 1 axe, as semifinal A would have the aforementioned Ripper taking on its longtime rival Thor, and in the other matchup, it would be another longtime veteran and Meggamouse taking on the fairly young flipper Tectonic representing Team Quake and Team Shock. Meggamouse and Tectonic would apparently have a back and forth affair with Meggamouse just winning the matchup, while Ripper would take care of Thor once again on the other side of the bracket, setting up a matchup between Team Roaming Robots and Team Mouse, 2 Robot Wars Series 7 veterans fighting for the Extreme Robots title and to be the inaugural champion. The matchup was reportedly a back and forth affair, with Meggamouse even managing a few near victory moments against the much more favored Ripper, but the odds would end up being in John Finley's favor, as Ripper would win the match by judges' decision and become the inaugural Extreme Robots heavyweight champion. Shortly after these events, James Daves, the captain of Donald Thump, would make his desire to challenge for the Extreme Robots title clear, as now set for Guildford it is going to be Ripper versus Donald Thump for the Extreme Robots title versus hat match, funnily enough. We'll be talking more about that result in our next rundown video later on in the month. Now talking about some of the individual performances and team performances at this event. We knew Team Invade, Michael Oates, Eruption were all not going to be able to captain for Team Inferno this time. So Two-Headed Death Flamingo and their wild crew filled in the captainship role for this event. The team fixed the back-heavy dilemma that they suffered at Crawford, as Two-Headed Death Flamingo is now armed with a wheelie bar, and these upgrades would seemingly pay off as Two-Headed Death Flamingo would open up the entire Extreme Robots season with a knockout victory in a captain versus captain matchup, managing to knock out both Manta and Gabriel to win the first ever matchup of the Extreme Robots season. Flamingo would end up going for a solid 2-1 in its day 1 appearance, but day 2 would only have 1 matchup and it would certainly get beat. It was yet another Captain's Rumble, another matchup between Manta and Gabriel, and the bots took out the challenge real quick, Gabriel reportedly sniped Flamingo's weapon chain fairly quickly, and just as quickly, Manta would throw Flamingo out of the arena, setting Flamingo back to even at 2-2, putting it pretty much probably in the same place it sat originally in the TCC rankings when results come out. Two robots that made the most mainstream buzz of this event, though, would be the two deadly spinners in Monsoon and Ominous, both on Team Inferno. This duo was meant to be at BattleBots 2021 and is a duo we're hopefully going to see in the BattleBots soon enough, maybe even later this year, we can only hope. But they are going to settle for the Extreme Robots Arena for now, as Ominous, the only international competitor at this event, would have a banner week, going 3-0 with a couple knockouts after 2 years of anticipation for the Dutch spinner. Ominous's first ever fight would be a grand one, pretty much getting a one-hit knockout on Wormgear to kick its career off, and then it followed up by beating Zagkiel, the new spinner from Team Gabriel, by judge's decision before beating both Donald Thump and Wormgear in a double knockout to end his campaign, leaving Ominous to finish 3-0 for the week. Tom Brewster's Monsoon would have a similarly successful week, as Team Toron was chopping at a bit to finally fight with this robot that they have been working on since 2019, after delay after delay after delay, finally getting to do it, and that desire to kill here was very evident, as Monsoon would also go undefeated this week, 2-0, obliterating Zagkiel and Apex with 2 KOs, less than a minute each during the week. What a showing by Monsoon. As we now move on to Team Divinity, despite their one show win, it seems on paper things were not looking too good. As we just discussed, Gabriel was having an up and down kind of weekend, while Zagkiel, it had good experiences, it had 3 fights, it fought some of the top spinners in all of Extreme Robots, Aftershock, Monsoon, Ominous. It did get beat though, lost all 3 times, 0-3 for the week, at least they weren't all by KO. Definitely a hard week for Team Gabriel here. And on top of Team Gabriel's woes, Team Thor has recently become a 2-man army, but doubling the team amount has not doubled the success for Team Thor. But it was a bad week for Thor, as the Hammer bot would go completely winless this weekend. We know that they lost twice to Tectonic, and they went 0-1 during the Championship tournament, losing the Ripper that way. Bad week for Thor. Hopefully we can see them bounce back in Guildford. And speaking of Tectonic, Team Quake would have quite a weekend also, mainly thanks to the Captain Robots from Team Shock and Will Thomas. Like I just mentioned, it was a busy week for Tectonic, with them entering the Extreme Robots bracket and beating Thor twice. Overall, Tectonic would pick up 3 wins, adding to the overall consistency we saw it have at Robots Live Crawley. Meanwhile, Manta, who on the opposite end had a fairly rough showing at Robots Live Crawley, was reportedly back to full power at this event, doing pretty decently. I believe they went undefeated, but would deal with some motor troubles after the weekend's final show. And finally, the last robot we're talking about today, the de facto ace for Team Shock, Aftershock, would live up to the hype that they've been building up, as it opened its year very strong, going 2-0 with wins over both Zagkiel and Nasher. But apparently it had some serious lipo issues over both of those fights, so that's probably going to be something we need to keep an eye on when we talk about Guildford later on in the month. But that's going to wrap it up here. That's all the news we have so far on Extreme Robots Portsmouth. Like I said, when that video comes out, when we finally get all the fights in full, hopefully in some beautiful footage, I can't wait to see what this is going to look like. We'll be back here and we'll talk about the event more in full. We'll update the TCC rankings. We'll do all that great stuff that we've been wanting to do. But in the meantime, we do know it is 1-1 heading into that Guildford event, which has already happened. I will say that. You want the results for it, go check out the Extreme Robots YouTube page. They're doing their own Reactivate series that kind of runs like this. You can find that in the description below. They talk all about that event, and we'll be talking about it later on in the month while we wait for this fight footage to come out. Hopefully it will come out before the next event in September. They are having their summer break right now. But that's going to do it for us here at the Combot Collective, talking about Extreme Robots. I am your host, as always, Sterling Brown. You can find me on Instagram at SterlingTXTG, and you can find me on my future podcasts, PhD and BS. And as for the Combot Collective, I'm going to show up once again. We are going to be streaming this weekend, July 16th and 17th, doing Amidst the Havoc. We are going to be talking live through 6 streams about Norwalk Havoc, Robotica, MRCA Iowa, and the UK's Medway Rapture, the next big UK event after all these big heavyweight events. It's exciting to see another beat-away competition with such prestige. There's teams coming from around the world competing at that one. We can't wait to talk about that. Of course, you can find us here on YouTube. That's where you're watching the video. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscription. Please give us a comment. We appreciate all of your support and criticism. As for our social media, please follow us on our Instagram, follow us on our Facebook, and join our Discord server. That's where all of our video news drops first. This has been the Combot Collective for an Extreme Robots Rundown. We will see you when we talk about Guildford later on in the month in late July, early August. Thank you so much for watching yet again. We will see you next time.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.